Hello everyone, it is the evening of Friday, November 2nd, 2018. The title of this recording is 6 Days to Sagittarius. I also could have titled this 6 Days of Archontic Derangement Syndrome or 6 Days of Divide and Conquer, because these 6 days are the very last days of Jupiter in Scorpio, and all that was, the bringing up of the underworld to light in order for it to be rectified. So over these next 6 days, we're going to complete out that very difficult energy that we've had for a year. And then on November 8th, we will begin Jupiter in Sagittarius. Jupiter will move into Sagittarius, where it will transit for a year. And that energy will be just as much as Jupiter in Scorpio was about the underworld and bringing up all of the ugliness and everything that we've seen over the last year. This next year will just as much be about reformation of religion, religious systems, the legal system, and truth. Sagittarius is ultimately concerned with truth and finding meaningfulness. So these 6 days are basically a serious Hail Mary by the Archons and the minions of the Archons to utilize the energetics that are in place over these next 6 days to get as much as they can out of it, to twist and stem their free fall, and to try and create a lot of chaos in which they can try to create some order. And it won't be effective, but it will be dramatic. And so I hope to provide some data that will assist the process, because everyone is processing the end of Jupiter in Scorpio and the divide and conquer that comes with that. No one will escape it, but hopefully there won't be as much derangement syndrome with this if we have an overview of it. And it might be surprising that people who are exhibiting a little bit of archonic derangement syndrome wouldn't be the people that you necessarily would have thought you would have seen that out of, or that you haven't seen that before and are now, or might over the next 6 days. Because it's going to be very intensive, and as I've been saying, Uranus is in effect, and when that happens, we expect the unexpected. And so if you're shocked or surprised by somebody and what they do, understand that's part of the energetic. So the first part of this recording, I'm going to do an overview of the astrology from November 2nd through the 8th. And the second part, I'm going to go into the Oracle Report Wayback Machine to January 2014 to revisit a story that I was writing about during that lunar month that was given by the emissary of the goddess Sophia, Kali, that month, and look at that and what we think of that in the light of today, because I have been directed to go back to that, bring that forward to put hopefully a framework around the next 6 days. Okay, first part, the astrology, the astrological overview, November 2nd through the 8th. Today, on November 2nd, Saturn has moved to 6 degrees of Capricorn, where it will remain until November 13th. The Sabian symbol for 6 degrees of Capricorn is 10 logs lie under an archway leading to darker woods. Okay? Keep this on the back burner, but keep in mind also that when Saturn is discharging at this degree, the darker elements of this symbology are what the archons will use more readily to create some dissonance and some trouble. Okay, so that's the degree of Saturn that we're going to have until November 13th. Okay, so that's out of the 6-day range, but just remember the Sabian symbol, because we're going to come back to it a couple of times and understand that it's happening and it's engaged today, Friday, November 2nd. November 3rd, Jupiter is going to move to the last degree of Scorpio, 30 degrees of Scorpio. The Sabian symbol is children in Halloween costumes engaging in various pranks. Okay, all of the Halloween energy, all of the energy that's been in effect since last Friday night when Halloween parties kicked into high gear, all of the energetics, all of the imprinting that has been going on has been a load-in for Jupiter moving to that degree, 30 Scorpio. Mercury just discharged this degree this week, the day before Halloween. And it's been a ritual. It's been an ongoing ritual, an attempt to get the most out of these 6 days. Okay, so just think about all of the Halloween stuff. It's just, consider this. I mean, to have Jupiter at this degree, Jupiter's orbit is 12 years, and to have it around Halloween is rather significant, isn't it? It's just a delightful little morsel that the archons have been working with. November 4th, Mercury. Oh, let me return back to November 3rd. Also on November 3rd, Saturday, Mercury will go to 5 Sagittarius, which is a wise old owl in a tree. Okay, so that means we need to engage the wise owl, obviously. And to talk about the wise owl in the tree and how that relates to the Oracle report, because that's why I'm calling everybody wise owls, because this has been the idea since I started it almost 10 years ago now, was to provide structure to where we could step out of this swirl, out of the chaos, go inside the tree and observe from our wisest self, and then leave the tree, fly out, take action when appropriate, when the timing is best. And that's what we've been doing all of this time, going out, blazing trails, coming back in to the tree, and observing again. And it's a process, it's a practice, it's a discipline, just like a martial art. However, this next 6 days and the next couple of years till we finish out until 2020, we're more out of the tree and flying around in the circle, as in the rings of wings around the world. We're going to be much more up there. That's second Renaissance, that's 5D. And we dip back in to 4D, because that's what's falling, 4D. 4D is falling around us as we're rising out of it. Some have been there longer than others. But it's not so much about being in the observation mode. It's now about, at a higher level, building, creating for second Renaissance. Okay, so this comes into effect Saturday. Sunday, November 4th, the moon will square Saturn that day. It's going to be transiting in square to Saturn at 6 Capricorn. 10 logs lie under an archway leading to darker woods. This imagery is loaded with, on one spectrum, the darker energy, because 10 in the Mayan calendar and in a lot of numerology is destructive forces, and darker woods. Okay, it's very Halloweenish, first of all, but it's really, this is the archway into the unknown, into the void, to get to someplace else. Okay, and the 10 logs are really there for us to have to light our way, so that we have a light, fire, take with us through the 6-day journey here. We have 10 logs. November 5th, Monday. The moon is going to transit Libra. It will hit 15 Libra, which is a degree of false flags. Circular paths is the Sabian symbol. It's the Mercury of the USA chart, and false flags occur under that energetic. We should expect false flags anytime over the 6 days to Sagittarius. This is also the eve of the election. And so we would gather that in order to influence an election, things would need to happen probably before November 6th. And then we come to November 6th, the election day. And a few things are happening that day. Uranus, which is retrograde, is going to retrograde out of Taurus and sling back into Aries, which is a big deal. When a planet changes signs, whether it's retrograde or stationing direct is moving forward, it's a change. And so we've been in a Taurus energy. Uranus in Taurus is a little bit slower, than Uranus in Aries. And so when Uranus goes back into Aries, it's going to be a jolt and a shift back into some faster paced, fiery energy. Pluto is also going to be in exact square to the United States natal black moon. The natal black moon of the United States is a caravan of cars headed to promised lands. It's 20 degrees of Virgo. And so we have a Pluto black moon square there on election day when we have a caravan of people headed this way. And I have, if you were following the Oracle report this week, you know, I named that Sabian symbol something else. A Soros-filled bus filled with terrorists. Let's see if I stay up online after that. The black moon on election day will be discharging. During a silent hour, a man receives a new inspiration which may change his life. And this is a spiritual influx. It's the breathing in of spirit. And so people are going to settle in their hearts into a way of what they will know what they want to do, however, which way they want to vote with that. People have emailed me and asking me about voting and what to do, and I say vote with your heart. And what I do is I look at the fruits of somebody's efforts, or if they are supporting the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And it's beyond the party system. Okay, but the point of that is the black moon itself will be working to help with the divine intervention that's happening over the 6 days. A key point here. It's a key point. If you were listening when I was on the Patriot Intel report with Phoenix, I talked about the outcome of the election did look to go red because Mars on the day of the election is discharging 25 degrees of Aquarius, which is a butterfly with the right wing more perfectly formed, and that's a conjunction with the natal moon of the United States in the United States chart. It's a 2-degree conjunction. It's not an exact conjunction. The moon will be transiting through the last degrees of Libra and begin Scorpio, and the energetics that it will activate the 11th house of the hopes, wishes, and dreams of the United States chart. And so this is the hopes, wishes, and dreams of the people, and this should shine out. This should come through, whatever that is. There is some spilled milk, kind of a theme going on with a broken bottle and spilled perfume. I would not be surprised if there is some kind of hanging chad kind of thing, because pretty much every road will be taken to try to disrupt all of this and to point it into the favor of the globalists. But again, we have that divine intervention, that divine inspiration. During a silent hour, a man receives a new inspiration which may change his life. So if you're not in the U.S. and voting, that's nice too, for whatever you have going on. November 7th, we have the new moon in Scorpio, and that is at 16 Scorpio, a girl's face breaking into a smile. I'm not going to go into an overview of that. Just understand that that's about choices and facing things, choosing a higher perspective, watching beauty emerge. And it's a very interesting cycle. We will devote a recording to that. On November 8th, Jupiter will enter Sagittarius. And will be doing a happy dance when that happens, because this is going to be very different, everyone. We are looking forward to that. So, what can we do about the next 6 days? That's all great, Laura. What can we do with it? So the second part of this recording is me going back to a story that was disseminated to me, let's put it that way, most every day of the Capricorn cycle of 2014. It was January 2014. And on several of those days, the wisdom goddess, the Mahavidya Kali, who was on duty that month, showed me an ongoing story, and each day was the next scene of the story, or the next part or chapter of the story. It was it's a short story when it's all put together. It's a strange little story, but that's because it has multiple levels of meaning in it, and I've struggled to understand it ever since it was given, and it's starting to make a little more sense now, all these years later. So I call the story The Band of Brothers an oracle story for the Second Renaissance. And basically it was about our journey that month with certain planets that were very active: Mercury, Mars, Uranus, and Pluto, 4 of them. Band of Brothers, the 4 directions on the medicine wheel, or the emissaries of Thelete. And Kali as our companion, or who accompanied us. And so I'm going to skip ahead to to the middle of the story and go from there. So basically, at the new moon, we started on this journey. It was New Year's Day, actually, a New Year's Day new moon, and we come to the part of the story where we're on the top of a cliff, and we're overlooking something that's going on down in the valley, a war party in the valley. The title of this part of the story is The Transformer Flame. So I'm going to read each section and then go over how it's applying to today, in my opinion. The Transformer Flame. Upon seeing us high on the cliff overlooking their ritual, the war party and its magicians scurry in all directions. Peace and harmony return to Venus's grove. She quietly calls to us. The Band of Brothers, Mercury, Mars, Uranus, and Pluto, steps aside. Venus has words for us alone. We follow her deep inside the open woods of her temple. She stops under a massive oak and turns to us. With a wave, the image of a roaring fire appears in her hand. It flickers as she rolls her fingers through it. She tells us the flame is an entity called the Transformer Flame, and it's a gift from the great goddess Sophia. We turn to Kali, and she nods in approval. The Transformer Flame is encoded to magnetically pull out whatever binds and enslaves us, whatever holds us back, and whatever we fear. Venus demonstrates how those types of things are drawn out and fly into the fire. They are transformed into raw energy that returns fresh and ready to be devoted to whatever we desire. We feel a strange stirring in our hearts, and she asks us what needs to go. This is very Jupiter and Scorpio. Okay, so it's taking all of those things, what enslaves us, what holds us back, what we fear, all of that Scorpio underworld, okay, and the expansion, the heights of it with Jupiter. And then Venus retrograde. In the story, Venus is the one that is teaching us about the character of Venus, I should say. We're not worshiping the planets here, okay? It's a metaphor. Okay. She's talking about how there is a flame that is magnetically pulling out things that we no longer need and transforming that energy into for use. Okay, this is Venus retrograde. This is what the highest octave of Venus retrograde, because we are finding out what we truly value and seeing what's holding us back, the way we really want things, what's at our highest and best. It's a a time of purging. Jupiter in Scorpio, Venus retrograde. Okay, next part. Chiron, the wounded healer and teacher. Before I read this part, I have something to say about Chiron. And I know that you are all very tired of hearing me call Chiron the wounded healer and teacher. And I'm tired of talking about it. But it is what we have right now with Uranus at the Chiron point and Venus retrograding opposite that. I have the ascendant of the Chiron point for Taurus. You have to be born only within 4 minutes, a 4-minute window each day to have that. I drew that straw. And as I told a friend of mine, I'm calling it. I'm calling it teaching now. We are leaving behind the wounding and the healing, and we're moving into the teaching with Jupiter and Sagittarius, the teacher. Because I think it's time, and I think I'm the one to call it. I've been carrying it this long, and we're going to transform it now. Let's move to teaching. Okay. At this part of the journey, we are coming to a rainbow that Callie had mentioned earlier in the story. It was off in the distance. Chiron, the wounded healer and teacher. Outrunning the whirlwinds, we come to a screeching halt at the border of the Black Moon's domain. Perched on the edge of a steep mountain range, we see walls of water pouring into unknown depths below. Through the mists, we see a shimmer of colors. It's Callie's rainbow. Callie tells us that it isn't a rainbow exactly, it's a bridge. With the slightest movement of her finger, the mists part. Meet Chiron, the keeper of the rainbow bridge. Mars comes forward to Chiron and with an uncharacteristically warm smile, slaps him on the back and gathers him into a bear hug. Chiron was Mars's teacher in the arts of war. They are old friends. The rainbow bridge appears at various points in space and time to transport travelers on a spiritual path, Chiron says. The bridge takes you out of shadows, fear, pain, and suffering. Standing at the entrance to Chiron's rainbow bridge, Callie speaks. The properties of the rainbow bridge, the properties of light, are malleable and can produce a wide range of effects. This bridge has been configured like a prism that will filter into 3 parts. That which is held in high intention, that which is held in low intention, and that which is not yet determined. These energies will undergo refinement as in processing. The high-minded energy is powerfully reinforced. The low-minded energy is scrubbed and polished. The neutral energy remains so. Crossing the bridge is an ascent in consciousness. It changes the nature of personal reality and worldwide reality. Are you ready to go? So we have the Rainbow Bridge of Chiron, transporting travelers on a spiritual path, taking us out of shadows, fear, pain, and suffering. And then Callie talks about that the bridge is made out of properties of light that have been configured like a prism that will filter into 3 parts. Okay, that's the degree of Chiron now at 29 Pisces. That Sabian symbol is light breaking into many colors as it passes through a prism. Okay, and so it's talking about the bridge has been configured like a prism that will filter into 3 parts. Okay, one of these parts is archonic derangement syndrome. One of these parts is second renaissance, which is like second earth. And the third part is a return home. So a lot of what is happening now is determining our path of where we're going, each of us. If we're going to go into an annihilation, into return to source, through self-destruction, archonic possession. If we're going into a second renaissance, a second earth that's free of archonic intrusion and brings forth the the completion of what began with Sophia and Thelete's experiment on this with life here, life that ended up here. Let's put it that way. And then, if you're going to return home, if you're going to rejoin higher self, oversoul, and continue on wherever that may be for you, or return to source. And she talks about how crossing the bridge is an ascent in consciousness, changes the nature of personal reality and worldwide reality. That's Uranus. Uranus changes. That's the key word for Uranus. It's changing the nature of our personal reality and our worldwide reality. It's conjunct the Chiron point, Chiron's place, the place in the sky where Chiron was discovered. And now Chiron is stationing retrograde back into Aries, back into the warrior mode, to change the nature of personal reality and worldwide reality. Okay, next chapter. A lecture on mind phantoms. Our journey with the band of brothers turns into a strange trip. We find that instead of walking across the bridge is transporting us. We are passengers seated on a glowing floor around our teacher, Callie. In another place, the energetic fields of our physical and emotional bodies are being filtered through the prism, sorted into 3 categories: keep, transform, undecided. Our consciousness is here attending class. Callie speaks. Each of you is a rainbow bridge, a bridge to the flowering of humanity. Your efforts are important, but there is one thing that undermines your course: distraction by illusion. Humanity, with its inherent code of sweetness, is easily fooled. Fear is continually projected to keep you in the shadows, detached from your greatness, and distracted from manifesting and actualizing that greatness. Together, we are bringing down this illusion, the tyranny over the mind of humanity. Systems based in power and control are dissolving all around. It is a spectacle from which it is hard to turn away. Destruction is mesmerizing. This is where most people are getting stuck. But look beyond to what's underneath. The strength of thousands has upheld the truths of nature that were mostly eradicated. These truths have resonated from your heart and your deep connection with nature herself. They have formed the structure of the world that is emerging. At this point in time, where do you place your focus? On what is dissolving or what is emerging? Do you wish to live in fear of the transformation, or do you choose to look deeper into it? Callie dismisses class with homework. See the symbolism that is all around you. Okay. Callie talks about each of us is a bridge, and our efforts are important. Okay, and that we are distracted by illusion. We're easily fooled. And this is because, and if we relate this to now, what's happening now, we are in such victim mode from the archonic bombardment for millennia, and particularly since 2012, that we have Stockholm syndrome. Okay, we are identifying with our perpetrators and becoming like them. So what is happening is even that we're turning on each other truthers, saying this truther is trying to fool us. Okay, Callie is telling us, with our inherent code of sweetness, we are easily fooled, and so this is now in a reaction formation at a total opposite end, and a Jupiter and Scorpio exaggeration, and it's a divide and conquer within our closest relationships, or the things that are closest to our heart. And this is a misdirect. Okay, it's what she says: distraction by illusion. Destruction is mesmerizing, she says, but well, it's also very anxiety producing. And that's where people are getting stuck, okay? And there's a tremendous amount of fear. Same old story. I want to say that everyone is entitled to free speech. We put our data out there and we move on, okay? The divide and conquer in the closer rings is part of this, and any of us can fall victim under this and falling into the derangement part of it if there's arcana cold, or if there are specific aspects in our chart, things that are being triggered. Okay, so she's also talking about the work that or just the beacons, just some light, some torches that have been held by those before us and those who have been doing this a while and are still standing. That's forming the structure of the world that's emerging, Second Renaissance. At the end, she says, see the symbolism that is all around you. And at the time that I wrote that, I understood because the scene shown to me and the way I perceived it was about nature. See the signs in nature and the symbology and everything. In 2018, at the end of Jupiter and Scorpio in 2018, see the symbolism that is all around you means see all of the symbolism of all the Luciferianism around you, because now you can't hardly turn your head without it being in your face. Continuing, this chapter is called Over the Chasms and Through the Colors. We find ourselves at the disseminating moon phase, far from where we started the journey back at the new moon. With our comrades, the band of brothers, we've met wise teachers and received lessons about the transformation of life, witnessed dark magicians setting up events, traveled through the shadowy underland of the black moon, and fought off emotional whirlwinds with a moon goddess. Now we find ourselves transporting over chasms while the light subtly shifts between the colors of the rainbow. We have a panorama view of the landscape, and we can see very far into the horizon. Mars and Uranus are off to themselves, huddled around a point in the landscape. They seem to be engaged in communication with someone remotely. Okay, so we have the panorama view of the landscape on the bridge that's transporting us, and we can see far into the horizon. This is our view from on high, flying above or in the air and looking ahead. Okay, to be having that vantage point and understanding that we have the structure underneath us, that we are being transported. Remember, she said that this is not exactly a bridge, it's more like a vehicle. It's moving us. Continuing, this chapter is titled The Black Dogs. They're not really chapters, they're just little parts. The Black Dogs. Callie utters a command. A portal off to the side opens, and 10 black dogs, shepherds, rush forward to take up positions around the perimeter of the bridge. Their gaze is fixed at various points out on the panoramic landscape. We look around at each other, confused and somewhat frozen in place in awe, mixed with a tinge of fear. The energy of these magnificent beasts, standing guard around us, locked in watch, loaded with protective force, is palpable. Mars and Uranus break from their huddle and rejoin us. There's quite a battle waging outside, Uranus tells us. We will begin to feel the effects any time now. And, as if on cue, something impacts the bridge and we stumble a little. Regaining his footing, Mars continues. The dark magicians of my archenemy are attacking. They are staged ahead, attacking from behind a battlefield that is being held by my sister, Eris. She and her forces await us at the end of the bridge. Uranus continues. The attack spell combines command of the elements of nature, wind, fire, and water, with mastery over what humanity believes. This attack causes unsettling effects and creates disequilibrium in the psyche, which makes humanity ripe for the insertion of a false reality. eyeing us, watching the weight of recognition fall over us, Callie interrupts. The Rainbow Bridge safely transports consciousness over chasms and through difficulties. All are guarded and protected, she says, with a flourish of her hand, proving the thought with a reminder of our watchdogs. So, the 10 black dogs, shepherds taking position around the perimeter. These are the 10 Mahavidyas, the wisdom goddesses, emissaries of Sophia. This is also the 10 logs. The 10 logs lie under an archway leading to darker woods. Remember, 6 Capricorn, the degree of Saturn. This tells us that, again, it is a repeat of 10, which is destruction that leads to rebirth, the 10 Mahavidyas, the 10 logs, the things that bring us light as we travel through a dark time, which is what this part of the story is about, and that we are transported over, and that all are protected. The balance of the spiritual warrior. Mars continues his story. My archenemy is the archenemy of all, but I hunt him for one reason, to avenge my sister Eris. He stalks her incessantly, waiting for the right moment to tap into her energy and distort it, raining down chaos and destruction on humanity. She is a goddess of death and rebirth, the natural order of life, but she also holds fury, which makes her very powerful. Because she is a keeper of ancient magic, dark magicians try to capture her. But Eris is the queen of the battlefield, and when we are united, no force can defeat us. The tone of a test. A tone resonates through the Rainbow Bridge, and the light changes, bathing everything in warm gold. In response, our companions on this month's journey, the band of brothers, stands at attention. Callie walks to the head of the bridge. At the end of every crossing of the Rainbow Bridge lies a reward, which comes only after the completion of a test, she tells us. This test is the 6 days to Sagittarius. The archenemy of Mars, the archenemy of all, is Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, the goddess of liberty. Hearing the tone, the rebel goddess Eris, whose soul burns with the fires of freedom, looks up in the sky. A smile slowly arches across her face, and mirth grows in her eyes. She turns to the dark magicians that she knows are watching from faraway lands when birds, thousands of them, owls of all varieties, shoot out of the Rainbow Bridge, descending in trails of light. Her party has arrived. That's the end of that story. A smile slowly arches across her face, and mirth grows in her eyes. This is the new moon in Scorpio on November 7th, a girl's face breaking into a smile. We arrive. And so, my friends, this is where we are, 6 days to Sagittarius, our test. We will handle this from an uplifted perspective out of the massive influx of ritual, of the pinnacle of ritual that has been loaded in on this very special time, the last days of Jupiter in Scorpio of 2018, leading us, bridging us into truth, Jupiter in Sagittarius. I will be back on Monday on the Oracle Report. I will see you then. I hope you all have a beautiful weekend.